This is the President of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. We see them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. They're telling you about the monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
I love that. Alright, making a video. Doing the video thing. When the United States declared bankruptcy, it pledged all Americans as collateral against the national debt, and it confiscated all the gold. And if you recall, in 1933, the President did that through executive order, House Joint Resolution 192. Everyone had to turn in all their gold, and their gold-backed U.S. dollars in exchange for Federal Reserve notes. Anyway, so confiscating all the gold eliminated the means by which anybody could pay for anything. It also assumed legal responsibility for providing a new way for you to pay, and it did that by providing what is known as the exemption. An exemption from having to pay for anything. In practical terms, though, this meant giving each American something to pay with, and that something is your credit. Your value to society was then and still is calculated using actuarial tables, and at birth, bonds equal to this average value are created. It's currently between $1 and $2 million. And now a bond is a promise to pay, right? So the bonds are collateralized by your birth certificate, which becomes a negotiable instrument. These bonds are hypothecated, traded until their value is unlimited for all intents and purposes. And all that credit created is technically and rightfully yours. In point of fact, you should be able to go into any store in America and buy anything and everything in sight, telling the clerk to charge it to your exemption account, which is identified by a 9-digit number that you will recognize as your Social Security number without the dashes. It is your EIN, which stands for Exemption Identification Number. However, these people that set up these accounts have done everything in their power to block our access to our own credit by creating the corporate fiction, which is a trust identified by your name in all capital letters. It is commonly referred to as your straw man. It is a debtor, and like all corporate entities under the bankruptcy, because it is a subset of the bankrupt debtor government, it is not you, but you unknowingly serve as the trustee for this fiction, manage it for its lifetime, and are legally liable for any and all debts it incurs, unless by administrative means you lay claim to any and all value it might contain by creating a security agreement between you and it. Sounds easy enough, doesn't it? Once you have done this, no other fiction can have any dealings with your fiction without your express permission as a creditor and creator of its value. It cannot even be sued without your permission. In fact, no court, government agency, law enforcement agency, attorney, or other corporate entity can transact business of any kind with the straw man without your permission. It is the one thing that every judge has drilled into his head, that the court must have your consent before it can prosecute your straw man rule or put you in jail. You, the unwitting surety for the straw man, which is a fiction, cannot be put in jail. Because it's not you that they're prosecuting, it's the straw man. And because it is your property, they need your consent for their fiction court or attorney to transact business under admiralty commercial UCC law with your straw man. The person in the black robe sitting in front of the court is a is a man on the land operating a corporate fiction called a court, which can only do business with other fictions. Your straw man. If you have ever looked at a summons, a complaint, which typically starts a legal proceeding suit, you will see it identifies the parties involved as plaintiff and defendant are always spelled in all capital letters because they are fictions. Clever still, the United States contracted with the Federal Reserve to use its private copyrighted script, the Federal Reserve note, for all debts, both public and private. And that private script can only be brought into the public, the corporate domain, that is the system we currently live in, through a chartered banking institution or pass-through account. And that pass-through account is your limited liability Social Security account. Anyone bringing money into the public in any other way can be charged with money laundering. With that groundwork laid, we come to the greatest scam of all: the use of your credit without your permission or your knowledge. In a debt-based system such as the one that we use under the National Bankruptcy of 1933, all value is created through lending. And what you lend is credit because there is no longer any money. The government took it all away. Remember House Joint Resolution 192 in 1933. They took all the money out of circulation. Anyway, as previously stated, every living soul in the system has the right, and albeit cleverly hidden, the ability to create credit. Only a living soul whose value to society has been denominated in bonds collateralized by evidence of its physical birth has access to credit, except for fictions such as banks, which are chartered by the government. Given the franchise, they're given the franchises to create credit. However, when you sit down with a banker to, take out a loan, you sign a promissory note, and on the strength of your signature, the loan, which is really a draw on your own credit, originally created to satisfy the legal requirement to provide you with the means to pay, is created, but you are led to believe that the bank is lending you its assets so that it is entitled to repayment of the principal plus interest, and that's wrong. The bank is using your credit to create the loan and then demanding that you pay back something that doesn't belong to you. This means that all loans are fraudulent because under the terms of the contract, whether it's a mortgage, a line of credit, a credit card account, a car loan, or any other loan, the truth of the matter was not fully divulged, and no contract can stand as legitimate and lawful unless all the terms of the agreement were shared with the borrower. In fact, the bank deposits a promissory note that you sign just as it would a check that you wrote. And that's the interesting thing, because when you put your signature on something, it instantly becomes a negotiable instrument, and it's worth credit. It's your credit, and it's worth the value printed on it. But it can only be collateralized or used through your pass-through account at the bank. So anyway, the bank deposits your promissory note that you sign just as it would any check that you wrote. It flips it over, endorses it, creates a special demand type account, deposits it, and then carries the loan on its books first as an asset and secondly as a liability owed to you. Of course, they never tell you this, but it's true. And if you're willing to risk having your accounts and your bank shut down, try asking a bank manager exactly what happens to a promissory note. That's where your 1099 OID information comes in, because when you sign the note, they deposit it in your name into it as an asset. But then they, what they do too is they take it and they sell it on the international and market as a collateralized debt obligation. And it's hypothecated again, but it's your money, and they're making money off your credit. So the 1099 OID philosophy is that, hey, you're entitled to some of the cut. Give me a cut of the proceeds that you're making off my my note. Anyway. The fact is that you have unlimited credit, and there is a burgeoning community of Americans who are learning to lawfully access and utilize the credit to settle any commercial affairs. Powers that be don't want you to know about this. Anyway, the government is legally required to provide you with the means to pay anything, anytime, but it did not see that it was obligated to show you how to access it. So it has taken many years, and people have finally figured out how this is done. In summary, the debt-based system, all value is created by lending in order to discharge, not pay, another debt obligation. The value behind this lending is credit. For you, this credit was based on your personal worth and was created by bonds collateralized by your birth certificate and valued according to its actuarial tables. This credit, your exemption, is all yours, authorized under the terms of the Bankruptcy and House Joint Resolution 192 to replace the gold confiscated by the government. The government and all its subsets have tried very hard for many decades to keep the fact of this value from you, and structured your interface with the rest of the corporate world so that you have acted as a surety for the debtor of fiction, your straw man. The predictable effect of this has been your personal amnesia, forgetting who you really are, a creditor, while the government has pillaged your credit for its own use, leaving you enslaved with without even knowing it. This is the ultimate deception and fraud. That's why in America we have these accounts set up at our birth, and the only way the government can get money from them is we have to sign for it. And how do they get us to sign for it? And they have what's called bills and statutes and codes. So our corporate fictions, the corporation has, just like McDonald's has certain codes for their employees. So does the United States government. Your U.S. citizen corporate fiction, your all caps name, has certain codes and statute that it must be regulated by, licenses, fees, all this stuff. They can't charge you for it, but you have to sign for it, and then they trick you into paying with your labor notes. Anyway, my point is there's more people in prison in the United States in America than any other country probably combined. It's up to like 3.5 million people lingering in the, because really the country is nothing more than a debtor's prison, and they have it set up that way, but it's really not, and you can work your way out of it. But when they charge you with a code or a statute, they have you sign a bid bond, a performance bond, a payment bond. That accesses your trust account. Like murder is $4 million. You murder somebody and a jury of your peers find you guilty, I think you should go to prison, or whatever the penalty is for that. But they take the bid bond, performance bond, and payment bond, and they sell those on the international stock market, and they're making money. Plus, they're pimping you while you're inside to most of the helmets and the body armor and stuff for the soldiers are made by prisoners who make like 10 cents a day. I don't know what it is. Anyway, you could go on and on for hours about this stuff. But anyway, what you need to do, or what I would do, is you want to make a tacit agreement with your straw man fiction. It's considered abandoned property. You need to reclaim it. You can do this by filing a UCC1 Financing Statement, a couple other affidavits, and then just let them know. Let the Secretary of State and Geithner and Treasury and all these people know, hey, I'm taking my control of my business back. Then you can do what's called accepted for value processes, possibly a 1099 OID process if you want. My only thing is if you people think you can't do this halfway. You have to either commit to doing it, living your life this way, or don't do it at all. We don't really own anything anyway. Everything is kind of rented. Everything is owned by the state, and you just pay rent to them. Everything is registered. Your car is registered. Your house is registered. If you have a business, your business is registered to them. Your guns are registered with the government. Everything is, when you register it, you hand over ownership to them, and then you lease it back from them. You through your corporate fiction. So understand how this stuff works. My blog is stopthepirates.blogspot.com if you're interested in this type of information and getting your property back. from these people. Come check out my blog, stopthepirates.blogspot.com. That's all I got for today. Thanks.